Alright guys, Raw Wrestler here. Today I'm going to be reviewing Wrestlemania 35, a show that honestly I was actually very much looking forward to. I thought Kofi and Bryan could tell a really wonderful story in their match. I thought Rollins and Lesnar could be great. And I thought that the first ever women's triple threat main event of WrestleMania could be, in all honesty, quite great and quite a spectacle to behold. In the end, the show finished like 5-10 minutes ago, and I'm just left speechless. Like, I had a lot of hype going into the show, and I think that maybe I'd given myself too much, especially with the time constraints on the main show. And the debate I had with my friend, and this is fun. The debate I had was Manias were better when there were less matches on a card. I think that's a tried and true fact. WrestleMania 17 had about 9. WrestleMania 30, which is one of my favourites, had 7. WrestleMania 31 had 9. And I think that 16 matches, or sorry, 12 for the main show, which is what we got, is overkill. And I think that killed the show. And I think that killed the show maybe more than any other Mania or show I've ever witnessed, because this show to me felt like every match, and I believe I said this year as well, last year about WrestleMania 34, it felt like no match had any spectacle. No match had any real grandeur about it. The only match that went for, like 20 minutes was the WWE title match. And we'll touch on what happened in a bunch of the other matches in a minute. But honestly, I hate talking like this about a WrestleMania show, especially one I was very much looking forward to with some big moments on the show. There was, the last match of Kurt Angle. You had Batista's in-ring return. Kofi Kingston finally getting a WWE title match. And I hate reviewing a show like this and being so down about it. And you're going to see why. And, I think this show will be quite polarizing. I think a lot of people are going to say the show was good. I don't necessarily think it was bad. But I guess we'll get to my final conclusion at the end of the review. The first match on the show, or on the pre-show, which me and my friends Chris and Lewis, shout outs to you guys again. These guys watched the show with me just like they watched TakeOver the other night, which was fantastic. If you haven't seen my TakeOver review, please check it out. That show is fantastic and it deserves a watch. Please check out the TakeOver show as well. Pete Dunne and Volta was fantastic, and so was Gargano and Cole. But the first match on the pre-show was the Cruiserweight title, which absolutely shocked me. I at least thought this would main event the pre-show. It's bad enough that it was put on the pre-show, but it was also put first on the pre-show, and that really grinded my gears. Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy came out dressed as a Joker with the Joker jacket. It was essentially the Heath Ledger Joker. Heath Ledger version of the Joker. I apologise. I've had a couple of drinks and my stomach's not great now. And Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy had, in all honesty, and of all the match, it's weird because we'll go through this review and you'll see that there's less about certain matches in the middle of the card because I was getting tired. But this match here was the first match I was going to watch. As far as stuff I can remember and stuff that stuck out, there was very little. At one point, Tony Nese did a moonsault on Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy hit him with some fantastic knee strikes. Tony Nese hit a couple of super kicks as well. He did at the beginning. Tony Nese was a house of fire. He did the handspring on the apron and then did the super kick. That was all cool. Murphy hit a knee and then hit Murphy's Law for a near fall. Nobody's kicked out of Murphy's Law, but there wasn't anyone in the crowd. So it wasn't a near fall. It wasn't like this big pop near fall. Nobody's kicked out of Murphy's Law, and that was the first person to kick out of it, and it was the first match on the Mania pre-show. After that, Tony Nese, I can't even remember how he beat him, and that's the worst part. Let me just check. Sorry. I've got to check how he beat him. One sec. Really? Oh yeah, sorry. He hit a German. He hit the running. He tried to go for the running Nice several times in the match. I think he might have hit it for a near fall at one point. But no, after Murphy hit Murphy's Law, Nese gave him a German suplex into the corner, hit the running Nese again. 1, 2, 3. Tony Nese wins the Cruiserweight Championship. Not shocking, but I did have Buddy Murphy to win this just because I thought that he was the juggernaut of the Cruiserweight division. I thought he was the best thing in the Cruiserweight division. Yeah, this was unfortunately kind of nothing, but it was better than nothing just. So I'd give this 2 3/4 stars. I think this was decent, although I do think Buddy Murphy's had a lot better matches than this on pay-per-view. And this was his WrestleMania moment. Like his from the Australia show, it led up to this match. And of all of his pay-per-view outings, Cedric Alexander, Mustafa Ali, this was the weakest match on pay-per-view. I'm getting things through from wrestling stuff all about this show at the minute from friends and on Facebook and stuff. I'm going to try and ignore them and talk to you. But yeah, 2 3/4 stars. Tony Nese is the new Cruiserweight champion. Second match on the pre-show was, I believe, the women's Battle Royal. The WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. This was nothing. Again, like, I hate saying that matches on the pre-show are nothing. I'm actually getting sick of it. And NXT don't run matches on their pre-show, but I feel like if they did, they would be better than this crap. Like, the surprise entrants were Kairi Sane again and Maria Menounos, and that was pretty much it. Oh, and Candice LeRae. Like, and just Carmella won. That was pretty much it. Sarah Logan, the last 3 were Sarah Logan, Sonya Deville, and Asuka, apparently. And Sarah Logan, in one swift motion, eliminated both Sonya Deville and Asuka, and she thought she'd won, but Carmella had only been thrown under the bottom rope. She got back in, and she super kicked Sarah Logan out of the ring. This was nothing. I'd say the one last year was better, but again, very much nothing. I'm going to give it 2 stars. It was just nothing, not really recommendable. Third match on the pre-show, in all honesty, may have been my favourite thing on the pre-show. It was the Raw Tag Team Titles matchup that just got added this week to the show. So if you're like me and you had predictions sheets to make, you had to make them late because you had to add this match at the last second. It was the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder against Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. In all honesty, there was so much heat on Zack Ryder in this match. I feel like he did very little. Like, very little. The heat was all continuously on Zack Ryder. He got destroyed. His legs got destroyed. He went for several hot tags. He could never get Kurt Hawkins in. This was also the longest match on the pre-show. Interestingly, I think. I think this went about, 12 minutes? 12 minutes, 13 minutes I've got here, but 13 and a half minutes. But no, Ryder finally got something, and he hit a rough ride off the middle rope, which was cool. And he finally got Kurt Hawkins in after a massive back body drop. Kurt Hawkins came in. Every man was knocked out on the outside at one point, and then Scott Dawson rolled Kurt Hawkins in. He teased him while he was on the floor, and then Kurt Hawkins just cradled him. 1, 2, 3. Kurt Hawkins' streak is over. Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins are the Raw Tag Team Champions. I'm going to give this one 2 1/4 stars. This was better than the Battle Royal. I was a little bit more invested just because the story is a little bit easier to get into. But as far as like this big Kurt Hawkins streak thing, like, you wanted to end it on the pre-show in a tag match where he got a fluke pin. Sure, like, it really doesn't bother me, but like, I don't know, like, I would have done it differently, is the one thing I'll say to most of the booking on this show. Yeah, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. I imagine that they will lose the belts on Raw tomorrow night. It's like 6 in the morning at the minute. I'm tired. I can't wait to get in that bed. But no, I imagine they'll lose the belts on Raw tomorrow night, but I guess we'll have to, sorry, the pop-up. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. And then the final match on the pre-show was the armbar, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. The important entrants were like your Andrades, your Alis, Braun Strowman, Colin Shea, Michael Jost. This was again kind of nothing. Harper returned in this, and he was like the only surprise in the whole match, which was just embarrassing. Like this company, in terms of like a lack of effort for a WrestleMania, I felt like this may have been the one time they've put in less effort than any other Mania show. And I don't know. I feel like I've been very confident with the last couple of Manias and been quite nice to them and said, everyone was really down on 32, and I gave that show quite a nice bit of praise and said, the women's match was good, the Shane spot was quite memorable. But, 33 I quite liked, and 34 last year I gave quite a hard time to, but I still gave it quite a bit of praise. This show is very hard to find praise for, and the armbar being on the pre-show is one of the things that I guess I'd give it a bit of negative criticism for. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in its first year, when Cesaro won it at Mania 30, was a big deal. It was a big deal. It was announced by Hogan. It was a memoriam to a legend. And when Cesaro won it, you felt like it was a big deal. And this year, Braun Strowman would go on to win it. And there's no point in me recalling anything. It's a very typical Battle Royal. I would say it was slightly better than the women's. Just because, I don't know. Again, there's a little bit more going on. The people in it were a bit more entertaining. Andrade eliminated himself with a Hurricane Rana off the apron, which I found funny. The Hardy Boys came out in like old school attire, and they both got eliminated by Braun Strowman, and then Braun Strowman eliminated both Colin Jost and Michael Shea. I forgot what their names were, sorry. Pretty quickly. Braun Strowman wins. Braun Strowman has fallen down the pecking order. He's now on the pre-show fighting SNL guys. 2 stars. A little bit better than the women's Battle Royal, but nothing really. And then the main show kicked off, and the first match on the main show, stunningly, let me scroll down. Let me just scroll down to it. After America the Beautiful, we had the Universal Championship match between Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins. It was weird that this was kicking off the show, and it kind of, I almost think, gave away the finish. Like, Brock and Seth going at it in the opener almost like indirectly, well, directly, told me that Brock was not going to win. Like, Brock's going to come in the opener, lose his belt, and leave New York immediately. And this match was weird because before the match the bell even rang, Rollins came down to the ring. There was a kind of cool Tron for him, but outside of that, the set for this show wasn't that impressive. Rollins came down to the ring. Brock immediately attacked him, threw him into the barricade, F5 on the outside, destroyed him on the outside, sent him over the announce tables a couple of times, and then when Rollins finally got in the ring, the bell rang, Brock immediately lunged at him, destroyed him, German, F5, Rollins survives. Somehow the referee got knocked out of the ring. That gave Rollins the opportunity he needed. Low blow, curb stomp, 1, 2, 3, Rollins wins. I didn't expect that, to be honest. The match actually went like 2 minutes. So I can't rate it. But as far as like things on the show I enjoyed, this was probably one of the things I enjoyed the most. It was surprising. It kind of had that feel of a WrestleMania to it. Like, it felt like a big deal, this match. Felt like a big deal. The finish felt conclusive. Like, Brock hadn't... Yes, he did cheat to beat Brock, but when he pinned Brock after 3 curb stomps, it was, like, conclusive. Rollins had beaten Brock, and he'd also beaten him at his own game, almost. I can't rate it, but as far as things on the show go, this was probably one of my favourite things on the show. Second match on the card, we had... actually, I can't rate it, sorry. Second match on the card, we had Randy Orton against AJ Styles. This was pretty good. It never got great. In all honesty, it was pretty good, as I said, but it really never got into like AJ Styles high gear. This was one of the longest matches on the show. This went about 16 minutes, which I was shocked at, to be honest. There's matches that I thought would get time cut. This was one of them. AJ and Randy didn't do anything too risky, which I think was really a smart idea. It was a very simple 16-minute match. It's actually one of the best simple matches you're probably going to see in the WWE. Randy hit his backbreaker. AJ went for the calf slicer a couple of times. And that was all nice, and it was really kind of played into the rivalry of the two. Like, their moves are almost iconic in their own way. Like, you know what Randy's going to do. Randy went for the RKO out of the phenomenal forearm at one point, and AJ, like, knew it was coming, so, like, stopped himself. And Randy, like, flat back bunked on the floor, on the mat. And I thought that was a really good spot, and then AJ gave him a 450 for a near fall. That was a really, really good near fall. Randy hit the RKO. AJ kicked out. AJ fought through it. He hit an Ushigoroshi. He hit the phenomenal forearm. 1, 2, 3. AJ Styles wins. I thought this was a pretty good little match. Up to this point, this was the best thing on the show, probably. And I give it 3.25 stars. I thought this was a pretty good little matchup to kick. It's weird to say it to kick off the show, because it wasn't, because you had the 2-minute match with Lesnar and Rollins, but it wasn't really 2 minutes because the segment was about 10 to 15. But as far as like an opening real contest goes, this was a pretty good little opener. Not like a great opener like NXT had, but a pretty good little opener between two men who, in all seriousness, could have a better match. And I don't know if it was just everyone was told, just do a match and don't do anything special. Let's just save it all for the main event, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, they had a pretty good little match here. I've got to be confident about, I've got to be positive about some things, so I'll be positive about this. It was pretty good. After AJ and Orton was the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match for the WWE SmackDown Live Tag Team titles. It was the Usos against Ricochet and Aleister Black, against who both got cool entrances, by the way, down the massive ramp, and I thought it was a really big ramp for WrestleMania this year. Against The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, and against Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura. In all honesty, this match was very fast-paced, and it was pretty much spot. There was some cool combinations in this matchup where you had like Aleister Black and Nakamura, which was really cool. You had Rusev and Aleister Black, which was also cool. Ricochet in there with everyone. Ricochet and Cesaro was really cool. Cesaro uppercutted Ricochet out of midair, which was really nice. You had like Sheamus hitting the bro kick and Aleister Black hitting Black Mass, Ricochet hitting like a dive on everyone. Like, this was all cool, and obviously Kinshasa from Nakamura. But in the end, a couple of super kicks from the Usos. I can't remember who it was on. I think it was on Rusev or Nakamura. A couple of super kicks on the Usos. Double Superfly Splash. 1, 2, 3. The Usos retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. I'm going to give this the same rating I gave the last match, 3.25 stars. I think I preferred the last match a little more, just because it went a little bit longer, and just because the spots weren't so contrived and just all together. They were a little bit more separated, and they all felt like they meant a little bit more. But yeah, 3.25 stars. This was also pretty good. Next match on the show was Miz and Shane McMahon. I thought this was in the Falls Count Anywhere match. I thought this was okay. This is a weird match to rate. I thought it was good. Okay, I thought this was good, but it never got better than good. It was very slow, very methodical, and that was fine, especially for the beginning when Shane would just tease Miz, and like he would go over to George and like say he was going to attack George, and then they'd wrestle out near the barricade and wrestle out near the table. But eventually, in all honesty, Miz took over, and he just hit him with a chair. He hit him with a chair. He hit him with a chair. He gave him a skull crushing finale on the ramp. He sent him into the massive pylons that were holding the setup above the ring. And they went into the crowd. hit him with a chair again, pretty much. They just brawled. It's just a brawl, really. Like, it wasn't like a brawl, like a Pete Dunne Walter brawl either. It's just like a really nasty kind of not great looking brawl between two not great wrestlers. They then climbed this. Shane got a little bit back. I was very surprised that Shane didn't bring out any of his cronies. So Shelton Benjamin, Sanity, Epico Cologne or Primo Cologne, whichever one it was. Sorry. Shane eventually got back in it and actually climbed a scaffold, which was like a balcony where like they had cameras and stuff. He climbed it and his back was towards the only edge that didn't have a barrier. And I was like, Miz is just going to spare him off. But then I was like, oh, the fall's actually a bit high. Like, Miz is going to fucking spike his head into the floor and die if he does that. So instead, Miz just grabs him. He suplexes him off this scaffold. They land in like a safety box, a crash pad. Very similar to the one at Backlash 2001, where Shane obviously jumped off the Tron against Big Show in the Last Man Standing match. They both land in the box, but Shane's arm is on top of Miz. 1, 2, 3. Miz looks like an idiot. He looks like an absolute buffoon. I don't think the finish was great. I thought it was pretty boring. I thought the spot that led to the finish was very good though. And outside of that, everything else was pretty bang average. So I think I'm going to give it decent, a 2 3/4 stars. Say it was decent because of that last spot being quite impressive and very interesting. And I didn't know how they'd finish this or what silly spot Shane would do, but that was a decently silly spot, although it was safer than some of the other spots he's taken recently. So I will accept that. 2 3/4 stars. This was decent. Check out the spot, because the spot was, as I said, pretty cool. Next match on the show, we had a bunch of SmackDown Live matches basically in a row. Well, after this one anyway. We had the Fatal 4-Way match for the women's tag team titles that pitted the champions, the Boss and Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha Banks, against the Iconics, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, against Natalya and Beth Phoenix, the Divas of Doom, or the Hart Foundation. They actually had Bret Hart at the top of the ramp for them, and against Nia Jax and Tamina. I think what this match showed me was how green most of the women are in WWE. Beth Phoenix came back and she looked better than the Iconics, both of them, than Nia Jax and Tamina. She looked good, and the best parts of this matchup were when Beth Phoenix did things. She did a top rope glam slam, which was really cool, and that's where I thought she was getting the finish, and it actually led to the finish. Boston Hug Connection, I think, were not the standout performers, but I think they tried to hold this match together because they knew the people they were working with were pretty shit. And they all, as I said, outside of Natalya, really, obviously Beth Phoenix isn't working full time, were rusty, to say the least. The Iconics, I don't think bring a lot to the WWE anymore. I think that they are great characters. And I think that they're very annoying, dastardly heels, but they have very little in-ring capability. Nia Jax and Tamina have very little as well. Nia Jax and Tamina did a double Samoan drop spot. The bank statement was locked in a couple of times. Bayley and Sasha went for the elbow and then the frog splash for a near fall, I believe. But in the end, Beth Phoenix did that top rope glam slam. She was thrown out of the ring by Billie Kay, who'd made a smart tag, which I guess is a good finish. It is a good finish, to be fair. And then Billie Kay ran in and hooked the leg. 1, 2, 3. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are the new... who did she pin? That's interesting. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. I'd give this 2.5 stars. I'd say this was better than the Raw Tag Title match because it was a little bit more entertaining. There was a little bit more drama. The crowd were more invested in it. But again, very much nothing. And in terms of your first ever showing of these women's tag titles on the main roster, it does worry me that this is the first match and the Iconics are leaving with the tag titles. As I said, I don't think in terms of in-ring credibility they bring anything. for a year. Ever since they came to the main roster, they have been whipping girls, essentially. They didn't even get into the Money in the Bank ladder match. Lana pinned Billie Kay to advance that Money in the Bank ladder match. So, whatever. 2.5 stars, as I said. Better than all of the pre-show, nearly. Nearly, it tried. Next match on the show was much better. I would say this was the best match on the show. Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. I would say that this was mainly the best match on the show because of the crowd. The crowd were so into Kofi Kingston. They loved him. As far as the special entrance goes, the New Day didn't get one, which actually kind of baffled me. I thought if anyone was going to get one, it would be the New Day and wearing a New Day top, because I was pulling for Kofi in this match, to be honest. I don't think people deserve titles in a fake wrestling world. Like, these titles mean nothing. But I believe that they deserve the acclamation or the plaudits from the people booking them or backing them. And if that is a title, sure. I just think Kofi needed a main event sort of a move or something to kind of validate his career. And if this was it, this was it. Because this was a good story. This is what the match I was definitely the most invested in. This was one I was most looking forward to. And it did deliver, but it didn't like over-deliver. Like, it was very good and it was just about great, but it wasn't like a spectacular match like the Walter match. And I don't want to criticize it by saying it wasn't spectacular, but I probably would have cut a little bit off. Only a little bit, because it went 23 minutes, and I think that some of the matches on the show could have used like 5 minutes here and there. But you could have cut a little bit off this match and it would have been better. Kofi and Bryan had a great pace at the beginning. They had some great spots where they'd like exchange kicks to the thighs and stuff, and I thought that was really smart because it was just showing both men's technical ability with their kicks. Bryan's like heel work over Kofi, as he did dominate a lot of Kofi, locking in the surfboard stretch, locking in the label lock at one point, which I actually did think would be the finish several times, because he locked it in several times and it really built to a climax where you did think he could beat Kofi with that move. They kept fighting. Kofi hit the SOS for a near fall. He did like the crossbodies and stuff on Bryan. Some of them weren't very clean, to be honest. Some of them looked a bit nasty. But he hit a bunch of crossbodies, the monkey flip. Bryan kept fighting. Bryan hit the running knee on Kofi. 1, 2, kick out. On the outside of the ring, Rowan was trying to get involved, but then Woods and E came in, hit the midnight hour, the up, down, down on Eric Rowan, so he was out of the match. He wasn't involved anymore. Kofi was in the ring with Bryan. Bryan went for the foot stomps on Kofi. Kofi was like, no. He like turned it around, basically. He like looked at Bryan when he was on the floor. He gave him these really sick, like the foot stomps where you grab the arms. They're basically like rapid fire curb stomps. He gave him a bunch of those. He stood back in the corner. He did the New Day, the thing where he goes boom, boom, boom. Hit Trouble in Paradise. 1, 2, 3. I love that finish, because the problem with WWE finishes these days is there's always a twist that leads to the finish. This wasn't a twist. Kofi got in there, he stomped Bryan's head in, and then hit Trouble in Paradise. There was no spot between Trouble in Paradise and the curb stomps. Kofi won the WWE title. That was absolutely the right decision. Like, if Bryan had won, I wouldn't have cared, because like he's a great heel, and you can maybe have Kofi win at SummerSlam or something. But Kofi winning, it made me happy, and that's a good thing. It was similar to how Gargano winning made me feel happy, because it was like almost just right. Like, as I said, I don't really believe that people deserve titles. I think that it almost just felt right to see Kofi with a WWE title finally, and it was very cool. He brought his kids in the ring. The New Day came in the ring. They had a present at ringside. It was like a box, and they said Kofi could open it after the matchup. He opened it. It was basically new merch, which was cool. It was like new champion or something, which I might buy the new champion shirt just because I want to support Kofi as a champion. I don't think he'll hold it for very long, but I think that we should enjoy this while it lasts, because my friend Lewis kind of put this point to me when I was complaining about how we're not the authority and stuff. He said that, well, I guess we kind of got Kofi in the main event of Mania, and I was like, well, we didn't get him in the main event, but like, we got them in a WWE title match. And I was like, that's cool and all, but at the end of the day, they're the guys that are going to decide all this, not us. Like, Kofi wasn't in that WWE title match, but because of us and because of our reactions and stuff, we got him in that WWE title match. And that does feel cool to an extent. Like, it almost feels like they're pandering to us a little bit sometimes, but look, I've got to be positive about this, and this is a match I do want to be positive about. I thought it was a great match. I think if there's anything on this show you need to see, it's actually the WWE title match. I'm going to give it 4.25 stars. It was not as good as probably anything nearly on the takeover. I'd probably say it was better than... Oh, God. I'd say it's better than the women's match. And I'd say it was better than the opener, probably. But outside of that, it wasn't better than Dunn and Walter. It wasn't better than Gargano Colin. I don't think it was better than Riddle Dream. But I do think it was a great match. And 4.25 stars. I'm being very nice to it because I really did quite like it. And I did like the moment of Kofi in the ring with his kids, with Big E and Xavier. It felt like a culmination of an 11-year odyssey. I just wish it had been later on in the show. And I guess that's my biggest gripe, really. But look, 4.25 stars. It was a great match. My friend Chris actually fell asleep. So I think when I see him, I am going to recommend that he does watch the whole match. Because as I say, I think it was the best thing on the show. And I've got loads of messages in like my group chat of me, Lewis, and Chris probably discussing this show. But no, great match. Best thing on the show. Next match on the show it was the US title match. Ray and Joe. Ray came out as Mysterio from Spider-Man. Which, when Lewis said, is he Mysterio? Like, I was like, oh my god. He's never been Mysterio before. And I was like, how has he never been Mysterio before? He came out as Mysterio. This match went at a breakneck pace. Ray hit a bunch of kicks, hit an enziguri. Hit a DDT. He knocks Joe onto the ropes with a Hurricane Rana, hit the 619, went up for the big splash, missed. Joe locked in the Kikina clutch. Ray passed out. This went 33 seconds, but this was one of my favourite things on the show because it went at a breakneck pace. You felt the drama. This wasn't a squash either. Like, a squash match is where you completely destroy your opponent. It's not just a match that goes 30 seconds. This was an even match for 30 seconds. And Joe just got ahead of him for just a little bit. This was one of my favourite things on the show. I can't rate it. The two of my favourite things on the show I can't rate because they were under like 4 minutes. But this was fun. You know, this was a really good little sprint for 30 seconds. Just like Goldberg and Brock. Like, just like their matches were like amazing sprints. This was a really fun sprint. I can't rate it, but if I could, I'd give it all the stars. The next matchup is the one I'm actually going to have the most trouble with because I don't know if I can remember a lot. Drew Galloway. I nearly called him Drew Galloway. Drew Galloway and Roman Reigns. I've actually just remembered. Where was the Elias segment? Oh, it's there. Anyway, the Elias segment was after this match, so I'll talk about that after this. We had the Hall of Fame, by the way. All the Hall of Fame guys come out earlier on in the show. Tori Wilson, the Hart Foundation, DX, Harlem Heat, Honky Tonk Man, and there's someone else. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. Brutus Beefcake. But no, this Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre match had a really good concept behind it. And the fact that they tied in Roman's, return from leukemia was ballsy, so I'll give him some credit. But in all honesty, this match was a Raw main event, and most of the show was just Raw. This was a Raw main event that got a couple... It didn't even get that long. This match went 10 minutes. Like, that's the problem. When you've got so many matches on your card that you bill as big matches, they're all only going to get 10 minutes. Like, this match got 10 minutes. The Shane McMahon Miz match got 13. The SmackDown tag got 10. What was the one? The second match on the show. Orton and Styles got 16. To be fair, like when you have so many big matches and you say all these matches are big, none of them feel special, and that was the problem I had with last year's Mania. It's a problem I had with 33. The best Manias are the ones that are the most concise, and that's why I think NXT shows are great. But the fact that I've gone off topic from this Roman Drew match kind of sums up how good it was. Like, it was at the point, in all honesty, we were all very tired by this point, and you can tell I'm tired now, and I do apologise if there's anything I'm missing from any of these matches. But this Roman Drew match was very much a Raw match. Roman won with the spear, he hit a Superman punch, and all I know is that Drew hit a couple of Glasgow kisses, which is the headbutt. That was it. Roman won with the spear. If I was rating it, I'd probably give it about 2.5 stars. Like, from what I saw, it was a very basic Raw match. And I hope from here, Roman is back to his best at the next pay-per-view. And I'm not blaming Roman for this match, and I'm not blaming Drew. The time constraints, and I think the problem is when I say that these shows are too long, and then I say there's time constraints, it really kind of, it seems like a contradiction, and I don't mean it to be. The problem is just have less matches. This match didn't need to be on this show, to be honest. Like, I know that people wanted Drew McIntyre and Reigns on the show, but of all the matches I've cut on the show, this would probably be one of them, unfortunately. I'm going to get a quick drink, because I've been talking for a long time and my voice is starting to sound horrible. But anyway, next part was after the McIntyre and Reigns match, it was the Elias segment. Everyone was basically wondering who was going to interrupt Elias. It turned out to be John Cena, but it wasn't like you can't see me John Cena. It was basic thugonomics John Cena, so he came out and rapped to Elias. He said he was going to turn heel, and that was about it. This was okay. He hit the FU, not the AA. Same move. This was fine. Cena had to be on the show somewhere, so... the next matchup, No Holds Barred, Triple H versus Batista. Probably the second best match on the show, to be honest. Like, as far as like a wrestling match, there wasn't a lot in it. It was just, the beginning was amazing because it was literally just Hunter beating the shit out of Dave. Like, he got a toolbox and he got some pliers and he started to like hurt the fingers. It was almost like Pete Dunne of Batista. And then he got in the ring and he pulled his nose ring out with his pliers after like pinning him under a steel chair. Then Dave would fight back. He would throw Triple H back first on each announce table. They went to war. Triple H and Dave went on the announce tables. Triple H speared him through an announce table, like off announce table through another one, which was kind of cool. They got back in the ring. Dave hit the Batista bomb. That got an earful. Triple H hit the pedigree. That got an earful. Both men got given sledgehammers by Ric Flair. After they did a spot on the steps, Triple H gave him a powerbomb on the steel steps. But no, both men had been given a sledgehammer by Ric Flair. They both turned around, looked at each other. Triple H ran and gave him like a Superman sledgehammer shot to the face. Hit another pedigree. These pedigrees looked really bad. 1, 2, 3. As far as Triple H matches going, like the last year, this was the best one. 3.5 stars I'd give this. Very good. Not like great, but like very good. Better than everything on the show except Kofi. And the 2 squashes. Well, not the squashes. The 2 matches that went under 2 minutes or 3 minutes because they were fun. 3.5 stars. Literally, when I watched this, I was like, you know what? That's one of my favourite things on the show. It wasn't even great, but it was alright. And I don't even like Triple H that much. Like, in all honesty, I think he's good at his job. I don't think he's one of the best wrestlers ever. Batista is also good at his job, and I think they've done very well in this build. The crowd throughout the show were dead at points, and this was a match where they perked up a little bit for points of it, and then they went low. They were really hot for Kofi, and for pretty much every match after that, they were just never as hot again. It's very weird how crowds work in WWE. How long did that match go? And 24, that was the longest match on the show. The next matchup was the Kurt Angle farewell matchup. This is going to be an interesting one. This match went a grand total of 6 minutes, which is fine because Kurt Angle, like, he's at the point where he can't really move. I would have preferred Kurt Angle to have a squash match than a 6-minute match, though, to be honest. Like, I would have preferred him to have just run in there, ankle lock, ankle slam, whatever. But the reason that he didn't do the ankle lock and the ankle slam was we had the match, Kurt Angle, Baron Corbin, and we know why Baron Corbin was his opponent now. Kurt Angle went in there, he did a couple of German suplexes, Baron Corbin gave him a big lariat, Angle gave him the angle slam, but Corbin kicked out. Angle went to do a moonsault for the last time in his career. Angle never hits the moonsault, so I actually thought he was going to. He missed. Corbin got him up, hit the end of days, 1, 2, 3. Baron Corbin beat Kurt Angle, which I actually predicted. Just because on the Go Home Raw, Angle got too much in. So yeah, Baron Corbin beat Kurt Angle. This match was literally nothing. Like as of all these matches I've said that were nothing, this one was literally nothing. I'm going to give this one 1 3/4 stars. It wasn't wrestled very well. It's probably the worst match on the show. I'd say this was probably a bad match. As far as bad matches on the show, there weren't any, really, outside of this one. I don't think the Ray match was bad. I don't think the Seth stuff at the beginning was bad. Just a lot of it was weird. But yeah, I'd say this was the first bad match on the show. 6 minutes. Ah! My picture's fell on me. Got to lean against the wall. Sorry for that. Actually, that was really... I had a feeling it would fall on me. Next match. Second to last match on the show. The penultimate match of WrestleMania. Intercontinental title. Bobby Lashley against Finn Balor. Oh my god. This was, again, just... Lashley did some spots. He hit a spear at one point. He hit a spear through the ropes, the Big E spear, and then he hit one in the ring. Balor kicked out. He hit a sling blade, and then he went up top and hit the coup de grace to Lashley at 1, 2, 3. Balor wins. This was nothing. I'm going to give this 2 stars. Just nothing again. Like, Balor came out. His entrance was kind of cool at Mania, but he needed a bigger match for it. Like, this means nothing. It's just an IC title match that is the piss break match before the main event of the show, the triple threat. So 2 stars to the IC title match. The main event of the show, the triple threat IC title, the triple threat match for the Raw Women's Championship and the SmackDown Women's Championship, winner take all. Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, the SmackDown Women's Champion, who had a really cool entrance. She came in a helicopter, and Becky Lynch, who had no special entrance whatsoever. Ronda Rousey was played to the ring by Joan Jett. That was cool. So why did Becky not get a cool entrance? Like, I don't really care that much, but like, make them all feel important. This woman's match was very weird, and I don't think it was very good, to be honest. This was a bit clunky at times, and and this was no one's fault really. It's just the fact that the women haven't had that much of a chance to work with each other. I mean, Becky and Charlotte clearly have, and I'm not even blaming Ronda. I didn't think Ronda was at fault too much for this matchup, but we'll talk about the ending in a bit. The stuff of note: Becky kept going for the disarmer. Charlotte hit a bunch of spears. She hit a double spear at one point, and then a really nice spear on Becky. Ronda kept trying for the armbar. Naturally, she hit a couple of rowdy busters. I think she did one on the outside. Eventually, Becky brought a table into the ring. And then Charlotte got double hip tossed through the table, and that actually nullified her for the rest of the matchup. Ronda and Becky would go at each other for a little bit. They would both try counters and go for the arm bars and stuff. Ronda somehow got Becky in the Rowdy Buster. She hit the Rowdy Buster, hit it completely, but as she hit it, Becky crucifixed her. 1, 2, 3. That was the finish. That was the main event of WrestleMania finish. Becky Lynch wins the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. Now, we've all come to the conclusion, this is only like an hour after the show's finished, that this was a botch, and that the finish was obviously not that Ronda was being pinned by a crucifix. If it was the finish, I would question it. But I almost laughed that the first women's WrestleMania main event had been ruined by a crappy finish that wasn't supposed to be the finish. It's like, I think all these women are very talented, but I think that it's a damn shame that they ruined the finish to the match. Like, I think that everyone's going to get on Ronda mostly for this, and I think that she gets some blame for not kicking out. Um, the referee is there, and the referee doesn't have to count if he doesn't see Ronda's shoulder on the mat, and he can almost just play up that he doesn't. Like, I think I would rather a match finish with the proper finish than finish early because of a crappy finish and be right. Like, I would rather a match get the proper finish and with a couple of mistakes in there, like the referee not pretending that someone's shoulders up or something like that, than have a crappy finish like we did. I think this finish really dampened my thoughts on the show, but they weren't particularly high anyway. So, very weird. I'm going to give this match, though, 3.25 stars, the same I gave to the Randy Orton match and to the 4-way tag team match. Just because I think that these women tried very hard to have a great match, and it just didn't come off right. And it maybe would have come off right better if they had the proper finish. They went about 21 minutes without the proper finish. And I imagine the proper finish would have been a couple of minutes away, probably. So, it was a weird ending to a weird WrestleMania. And, like, in conclusion for this show, it's so hard to look at because I really did love the Kofi match. Like, it really was great, and it was a great moment. And I thought that there was some very good stuff on the show. Dave and Triple H, I thought, had a very good little no-off-barred match with some interesting moments. The nose ring thing was weird. As I said, the Randy Orton AJ match was not as good as I thought it would be, but I said it was pretty good. The 4-way tag was pretty good. Like the main event, I said, was pretty good. I just don't think it ever really got to that point. Angle's last match was weird. You know, the Demon on WrestleMania was an interesting thing. The squashes, the Rollins winning the belt, Kofi winning the belt, and Becky winning the belt was very interesting. A very babyface-centric Mania with Tony Nese winning on the pre-show. Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder winning the belts too. The only belt on the main roster being held by heels, or the only two belts, are the Women's Tag, which are held by the Iconics, the Iconics, and the US, which is held by Joe. Very weird, and it's fine because Mania is the culmination, the pinnacle of stories and of the season. So you should have a lot of good guys winning here, to be honest. But no, like, outside of those things I mentioned, there is nothing on this show I'd watch again, ever. Like, to be honest. And it's not because it's bad, it's just because it's mundane and stuff I could watch on Raw for free. And I think my friend Lewis, he said it was a good show. And I was like, I don't pay $9.99 a month for a good show. I'm not going to lie. Like, when you're paying the money for it, and it's like, it's not even like it's a large quantity of money. But it's like, yes, the TakeOver show is fantastic. But I do mainly pay that money. I mean, I personally pay for the takeovers. But the pay-per-views are there. And WrestleMania is the pay-per-view of the year. It's supposed to be the best pay-per-view of the year. And in terms of, like, this year, this will not be the top 5 pay-per-view for the company, I imagine, this year. I'd argue, in all honesty, that the Rumble was probably better, and I wasn't particularly high on that show. So, outside of that, I'm going to give the show, it's really weird, I'm going to give the show a chance. I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. Just above average, just because there wasn't too many bad matches outside of the Angle Corbin one, which was bad just because the people in it are just not qualified anymore. And in all honesty, the Kofi match was great. I really quite liked Batista and Triple H. And I thought that, as I said, there were some pretty good matches at the beginning of the show. And a lot of babyface title change wins, I think, help kind of get rid of this notion that it's only about heat and heels winning in the company. So those, I think, are the main points, are the main reasons why I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. As far as comparing it to TakeOver, I just don't do that anymore. There's no point, because there's just... TakeOver is a 5-match card that goes 3 hours, and this is a 16-match card that goes 8. and it's just, I know which one I'd rather watch. It's the shorter one, it's the better one, and they're all in the same show. And one day, I hope WWE go back to having 9-match WrestleManias, because it can be done. Because the Mania roster that we had at 31 and at 30 was pretty much the same one we've got now. So, thanks for watching, guys. This has been Raw Wrestler. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Raw Wrestler. Like, comment, subscribe for more. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think to WrestleMania 35? What did you think to the main event? What did you think to the finish? Do you think it was the proper finish? Do you think it was a botch? Whose fault do you think it is? What did you think to Kofi Kingston finally winning the WWE Championship? Do you think it was the best match on the show like I did? What did you think to Seth, Kofi, and Becky all winning gold on this show? What did you think to anything else on the show? Do you think I've been too harsh? Do you think I've been too lenient on certain matches? What did you think to my second favourite match on the show? The 3.5 stars I gave to Dave Bautista and Triple H. And what did you think to the weird short matches like the Seth Rollins Brock Lesnar match that only went 2 minutes really, but it was a 10-minute segment, or the 30-second match between Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe? No Dominic involvement. What do you think to John Cena turning heel? Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Revolver Wrestler.